This episode is brought to you by MedBridge Education. Log into medbridgeeducation.com/TN Therapy Outsource. Use the promo code Dr. Mike or alternative to get $200 discount or over 40% off. Gain access to 1,000 plus online courses, compliance training, certification preps, program, and so much more. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mike Chua, physical therapist and certified dementia practitioner. And today we have a very, very special guest. There's no need for introduction, but I just wanted to introduce her to you guys. Right now, we're in this alternative careers group for rehab professional. Everybody knows her in this group. Her name is Miss Teepa Snow. Her alternative career is teaching, educating people about dementia. She has her own course, her own company, travels, not just here in the States, travel all around the world, talking about her own specific niche. And I wanted her to come into our group and basically tell her how she started her alternative career and why dementia. So again, thank you very much, Miss Teepa. I appreciate you. I know you're very busy, and thank you very much for taking the time to encourage me and also our fellow therapists in this group. So thank you very much, ma'am.
Absolutely. Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. It's always great to be among rehab people who get the idea that the same old isn't really rehab. It's just doing what you've been doing without thinking a whole lot. And it's exciting to be with people who want to think about what they're doing and are curious about what they can do differently to make a difference.
There you go. Well, I guess my first question, Miss Teepa, I'm starstruck right now, right?
Don't be that way. No, we're all in this together. It's all cool.
I know. I don't know if you remember last February, you did a lecture here in Tennessee. And when you called me, I was like, oh, is she really calling me, or is this a video that I'm watching? Because I've been watching you all the time. I guess this is it. So
this is it.
Yeah. So again, going back to my question, why dementia? Why did you choose dementia? What was that?
Well, it's interesting. When I was a teenager, I did a lot of work with kids with developmental disabilities, even though at the same time, my grandfather had moved in and we were pretty much in the middle of his mental health issues. But at the time, all we thought was he was getting old and was getting eccentric, and he had COPD. And it was probably just because of the oxygen problems. But boy, did he have times that, because we didn't know at the time, it was way long ago. We didn't know anything about vascular dementia, to be honest. And that's clearly what he had when I look back on it. But we didn't know any better. So I had the combination of really enjoying as a teenager working with kids with a variety of disabilities, everything from Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy. I did a lot of volunteer work. And so then it was either go into special education or go into health person. And I sort of stumbled around and had a major in zoology as an undergraduate after 5 different majors. And then after I graduated, and you can't really do anything with a major in zoology. You may not have realized that. It's really interesting how you sort of go, oh, now what? So I worked as a desk clerk at the Carolina Inn at night. So I had night shift. And during the day, I would volunteer at a day center for people with developmental disabilities and people who had dementia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because by then also my grandma had dementia, only she was developing Alzheimer's. And we sort of knew a tiny bit more, but still not well and not enough, and a lot of bad advice back in that day. And so I really got fascinated with brains. And so I went into occupational therapy. And at first, one of my very first jobs was at a rehab center in South Carolina that served head injury, stroke, kids, Head Start, community services, home health, hospital, nursing homes, because it was the Hitchcock Rehab Center. And back at the time, it was like a one-stop shop. So anybody with rehab needs would go there. And then after that,
one big facility, everybody's there. PDA.
Everybody. It was a small town in South Carolina. Everybody, you served everybody. Mm-hmm. So I got more and more interested in neuro. kinds of situations. And so I got responsibility and an opportunity to work at Duke University Medical Center's rehab and UNC rehab. And then I worked with a program on aging in Chapel Hill. I was part of an interdisciplinary team. And we were the group that first did a teaching nursing home project with nurse, social worker, physician, internal and family practice doc, and myself. And so we had a lot of medical students, graduate students, residents. And that's when I started doing teaching in addition to my occupational therapy background. And so we were doing a lot of geriatrics and geriatric practice, a lot of cross-disciplinary work. And then after that, I went into head injury for 7 years and worked with traumatic brain injury, everything from coma to community reentry. And I was in charge of the OT department, but we did a lot of shared treatment with PT, speech, nursing. And so that's where I really developed a lot of the techniques I've used then in dementia was during my time with head injury recover. Because we would have a lot of people in there who, when we did certain things, it would go better, would go worse. And I was one of the people that was responsible for the behavior team. And I got tired of taking people down because you never got to do therapy. All you were doing was taking people down. And it was like, oh, that's because we kept stirring them up to a place of non-function. So I gradually got more and more involved in geriatrics. And I ran an OTA program at Durham Tech. And during that time, I also volunteered with the Alzheimer's Association and started doing some workshops with a nurse and a social worker. And it's gone haywire since then.
Oh, wow. And these are all just the past 5 years, right? Just kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've been an OT for 40 years.
40 years. You don't look like you're that old. You look like you're just 39.
Yeah, good try, Mike. We need glass adjustment there, clearly.
Focus, right?
Yeah.
Hey, maybe I can get a discount, right, from your courses. Well, anyway, you've done all this stuff. You've done all this awesome courses, workshops, and achievements. One thing that really stood out for me is your passion for dementia. And when I came here in the States, 2011, I came into a nursing home and they told me, you got to watch Teepa Snow. I said, who is this Teepa Snow? And we don't have a name Teepa in the Philippines.
No, you do not. They don't actually have one in the U.S. either. It's a very odd name. Little boy with autism will do that for you.
Really? Where did this Teepa name came from? Is it like a nickname or?
Yeah, well, my name was Teena, which my mom thought was a clever way to spell Tina.
Oh.
So she was being clever, but then Michael, one of the little boys when I was a teenager, couldn't say Tina. He'd go, hey, Teepa, come on, Teepa, Teepa, Teepa. So I was his favorite, and so he would say Teepa, 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 Teepa. He had echolalia, among other things, but a speech problem. And so all my friends and family picked it up. So eventually everyone called me Teepa, so I legally changed it to Teepa. Oh, it's a given name.
The name is already a catchy name already. So, oh wow. So yeah, when I came in here 2011 and I was at a nursing home and I said, what are this? I mean, we don't have a lot of dementia cases in the Philippines because people there die young and
they do, or they keep people at home.
Mm-hmm. And half of the time, 80, 90-year-old, they're all sharp, intact because they're all healthy. And I came here and it's like, what are these patients? I'm in a psych ward or something. And they told me to watch your video. So I've been watching all your videos for 7 or 8 years now, and I'm still learning up until now. So Thank you very much, Miss Teepa. So going back to the alternative career, I'm just starstruck, right? So we've got this OTs and PTs and speech therapists, and they want to learn more about dementia. So how can we reach you? I mean, is there a website?
What's interesting is when I started doing this, other people said, well, how do you do this? And it's like, well, there's knowledge and there's skill. And first it starts with just being aware that a lot of what goes on when somebody has dementia, I mean, they're doing the best they can. And so if we want a different outcome, we're the ones who are going to have to make some changes. And people are amazingly resilient, and they'll keep trying as long as they can, but they can only use what they have. And so I got real curious about, okay, well, how do we build relationships better? And when I figured some of those things out, that you should always use visual, then verbal, then touch cueing, because that's a better match than if you try to touch someone without them understanding, or you just try to tell them what you're going to do. And then I also started doing things with how do humans use their hands. And if you support how they use their hands, they actually can use motor memories, because motor memories are reserved, even though they can't access the initiation, that get started phenomena. If I can get you going, your brain sort of kicks in and goes, oh, well, I know this. This is taking a bite of food, or, oh, this is taking my shirt off. Okay, I got it. So rather than resistance to care, you get participation in care. And so when I started figuring that out, people were really curious about, well, how can you get him to do that? I can't get him to do that. And I'd say, well, watch and then do this. And so I was doing a lot of continuing ed. And after the continuing ed, then I started realizing, yeah, but they need rehearsal before you turn them loose on somebody with dementia, or it's not fair because they're just learning the skill and they have lots of issues. And so I started developing our certification courses. So we have trainers and coaches and consultants and engagement leaders, because I had to take my whole 40 years of career and break it apart into bite-sized pieces. And it turns out there are a lot of therapists out there who are really looking for the right place for them. They're good teachers, they're good coaches, they're good consultants. But what they're being asked to do under Medicare guidelines or under like the 95% productivity rate is just exhausting and demoralizing. And you feel like you're not making a difference because you don't have the flexibility to be who you need to be, to do what you need to do to help people actually change, like you're trying to help them. So that's how that all started. So with Positive Approach to Care and PAC, we now have skills days, we have certification courses, and we just have awareness talks and webinars. Because we're trying to do a significant amount of outreach. It just doesn't feel like there's enough happening for as many people who are living with this condition, and many people who are trying to help, but without a lot of knowledge and skill.
That's so true. You mentioned about 95% productivity. With all the changes that's happening, PDPM, PDGM, we really have to be efficient when it comes to treating and providing skilled care to our patients. With if you guys are watching right now, listening to our podcast or in our show, the replay, we need to provide skilled services. The technique that Miss Teepa is showing, it's not just specific to one discipline. This is specific to all of us discipline, PT, OT, speech, nurses even. But once you've learned the skills here, I mean, I've seen it. I've watched her in action. This is skills, and it's a skill set. And obviously, what do? Skilled therapy. That's a skill, and that is billable. So if we are providing those services and it's a skill set, it's billable, and you improve your marketability in the system. You improve your, not just because you want the extra letters behind your name, but because you are providing a valuable skill set to your patients and to their loved ones. And that increases your job stability, your marketability, and obviously you decreases your stress when it comes to treating dementia. Most of the time, people who are stressed out in the nursing home, because they're stressed out, they don't know, they can't get the result out of it. But if you have the skills that Miss Teepa is teaching, oh gosh, you can apply the skills and you can get that awesome result and get increased strength, increased participation, and get more out of it. Right, Miss Teepa?
Yeah, one of the things that always surprises me in many ways is how many times I see the words plateaued. Patient has plateaued. And it's like, many cases, I'll go in there and work with them and they'll go, how did you get them to do that? Because they won't do that for me. And it's like, yeah, well, that's because I connected with them first and I got them really doing the thing they still can do easily. They got confident they got engaged, they got excited, and then I could get them to go do things with me that otherwise, if you try to make it your way or the highway, they'll shut down. And so you do get that plateau phenomena if you're using something that isn't based on who they are and what they're showing you in that moment. And that is skilled service. I mean, there isn't anything more skilled than working with someone who's living with dementia, to be honest. I mean, it takes incredible amounts of skill.
I love what you said. I love what you said, Miss Teepa. Plateaued.
Yeah.
A lot of therapists, I mean, I'm a PT. I would always strike that word. And I'm listening to you. I'm watching to Teepa Snow. I mean, just don't stop here. I want you guys, when you're watching right now, go to YouTube, go to her course, go to her website, because the word plateau is for the patient. They will stop there. The thing here is sometimes it's the therapist who gets plateaued. We need to change. It's us who needs to change, not the patient. So if you have reached the plateau yourself, go to Teepa Snow's website, check it out. You will elevate your knowledge skill sets. Same thing with exercising. If you feel like you've plateaued in your exercise, for example, you've been running for like 2 miles, it's not the road that's plateaued. It's you. You got to change your habits there. So I love that, Miss Teepa. Oh gosh. That's such a value bomb there. Thank you for sharing that there.
Yeah. And I think, what's exciting is that when we have our, then everything changes for both of us. Because once my perspective or my point of view shifts a little bit and I can see yours better, then things look totally different for the two of us. And what then can happen is just remarkable. And it wouldn't have been possible. It truly was not possible until I shifted me into a different place. And that need to shift to be healthy and whole and to use your brain. Because one of the real risks of getting older, and we are all doing it, is that we do things the way we've always done things. And it uses less and less brain power to do that. And what we don't realize is how many opportunities for brain health we're missing because we just keep doing things the same old way and we're not growing new synaptic connections. And as soon as you start making that your habit, you're not staying static. People think they're staying the same. You're not. You're losing ground a little at a time because you'd taken what had been a thoughtful piece of work and simply made it a routine. A habit that you don't have to think about. And so you're actually not making choices anymore. You're just doing what you always do. And when you don't choose something different for yourself, you actually choose to lose, which is not a great thing to think about because people want it to be easy and it's not easy. There should always be a little bit of a challenge in doing what we do. Or we're missing that place where we should be in ourselves and in our health and well-being, which is we want to give ourselves that little bit of bump, that little bit of lift, that little bit of, I hadn't thought it. And we're not talking about leaps off of buildings. We're talking about baby steps forward sometimes, but stop going in the same pathway because all you're doing is digging a ditch. If you just keep in that, you notice less and less, and you don't realize that the thing that's changing is not that patient and not that building and not that supervisor. It's actually you because you care less.
Oh gosh, that is such a powerful advice there, Miss Teepa. I love what you said, not growing, and we're doing that routine and you want it easy and there's no challenge. And that's actually the key word for burnout.
Yeah.
That's what the therapy world is experiencing right now.
Yeah.
They're burnout. And that's the reason why our group is getting bigger to 10,000 members right now because they're not growing. They don't want to grow. They just want to stay in that setting, And
it's that, how do I stay here and yet do something different? And that's where, if you just pick even one of the little YouTubes and see, what can I take out of that? Mm-hmm. And how can I use something I took out of that? That's part of what our training is all about, is really, we call it adult experiential learning cycle. We come together, adult experiential learning cycle.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
So we have an experience together, and then we share about the experience, and then we wonder why that worked or didn't work. And then we sort of hook it in with our theory base or our background or what's happened before in other situations. And we decide, you know what, here's the one thing I want to try a little differently and see what happens if we do it this way. And simply by doing that, you get your brain to get interested again. So simply by, for instance, if I said, okay, Mike, I'm going to sit and I'm going to lean in at you. And I want you to think of how well you're listening to what I'm saying versus how much I'm almost like so in your face that you can hardly. And then when I back up, even though you might have to concentrate more on hearing, it actually feels more comfortable to have me in this place. And your brain relaxes.
That's
and
so
you,
true.
And then if I turn this way versus if I turn this way for you, and realizing humans are really tuned into other humans. And sometimes we miss things that we do that affect the other human, and we notice they're quote unquote misbehaving or not paying attention. But what we don't realize is what part we might play. Now, when somebody has a stroke, it's so blatant that we can sort of wrap our head around it. But the more subtle things that happen, like when somebody's developing dementia or might be having episode with diabetes where their blood sugars are off, or COPD where their oxygen flow isn't right, that just looks like refusals and obstinates and stubborn and not collaborating. And what it might be is, I need to rethink of my cueing because something I'm doing isn't working for you. And so I want to think of what's going on here and be able and willing to do a quick shift to see what happens if I change me.
You know what? That's so true. We document patient refuse, patient non-cooperative, patient this and that. And actually, it's the therapist who's refusing. You know, a lot of...
Well, we want to do it like we want to do it.
When I went to the nursing home and a lot of, the therapist there were like, oh, the patient will not do it anyway. And I would come in. I was like, let me, this is what... you would be happy with what I do. I do this, WWTP, WWTD. What would Teepa do? What would Teepa do here? So I would just pretend I wasn't even doing the misunderstanding dementia course yet. And no, I didn't have that course yet in my book. And what I would do in that nursing home I used to work at, what would Teepa do in this situation? I'll be happy. I'll pretend like you. So the patient would be like, I just want to do therapy tomorrow. And I'll be like, okay, I'll see you tomorrow. And I'll be like, going out the camera, going out the door, and then come back. Hello, good morning. Today. And I'll be like, and they would work with me. Today is tomorrow. It's like, okay, what the heck? Teepa told me to do that. So stuff like that.
Start over. If it doesn't work the first time, take a step back. And
that's so
that's your brain being creative. Yeah.
And I think that's the same thing with therapists right now who are trying to look for their job, their alternative career. All they need to do is just trigger that new brain cells and find find something that they're really passionate about. So again, thank you very much, Miss Teepa. I really appreciate you. One more question before we let you go. Any special last tip for our PTOT speech friends who are listening right now on finding their alternative career? And also, where can we find you? Where can we reach you? What website or email?
So the website, that's pretty simple. It's just my name. www.Teepa Snow, no space, teepasnow.com. And we also have lots of stuff out there free on YouTube. And usually if you Google up dementia and you do Teepa, you'll come up with about 20 or 30 of those suckers. And that's because I
never get tired watching all those videos.
Very funny. But I worked with Pines of Sarasota, which was a nonprofit nursing home in Florida. And that's how we sort of got started on doing those YouTubes. Because we were making videos for families all around the world and caregivers all around the world. And the YouTubes are a quick fix. I mean, they're just a quick little thing, like 5 minutes. Just get your teeth sort of into something and take a look at it and see if you can figure out something that might speak to you. And so I think for therapists, in my life, I usually have like a 7-year itch where every 7 years I start to feel oh, God, it feels like, I've had these same clothes on forever. And I've got to do something. And so the question is, well, is it a different place? Is it a different population? Is it a different way of looking at things? Is it a different way of doing things? Is it being around new people? What is it? What is it you need? And so for me, it isn't always a new job, but it's a new way of trying to help people. Because I think, part of why I have always done what I've done is that I have a real need to be helpful. It's part of my makeup, and it's part of what gives me joy and pleasure in being alive. And so I have to find ways that I can offer something to someone else, and they find it helpful. But I don't need to help people, but I do. And so usually it's a question of, listen, I have a favor to ask of you. Would you work with me? And for me, that's often a door opener. I have a favor to ask of you. Would you work with me? So that I start opening different doors and saying to people, I want to do something. You hold half of what it is that we're going to end up doing. I only hold half. And so I'd be really curious about you and where you're from and what you do and how you do it. Because invariably in that relationship, I'll find something that I can take away for me, and hopefully it's mutual. And almost always it is, but it's our opportunity to make little changes in us that help us to feel like things might actually have a seismic change. And often I have found some of my career changes are when I wasn't looking for them. I was just making what I thought was a slight adjustment, and it slid on over to the far side, and I ended up swinging way out on the edge and, running the first Medicare waiver program in North Carolina, or, training, the state of Indiana on, the possibility for the Health and Human Services departments all over the state, what this thing is called dementia and how we could do something differently than what they are doing. Oh. So who would know? Who knows where it will take us when we have that first little bite.
Oh, wow. Well, you are doing awesome, Miss Teepa. We really appreciate you. And I think continue to do what you're doing. You're not only changing one life, you're changing not just one person at a time. You're changing the whole system. And I believe your best days are still out there. That 40 years that you have, I still believe it's going to be 80, 120. And with this thing that you're doing, it's going to be a legacy. It's not just you. Teepa Snow is already a brand, and it's going to be so big that Teepa Snow will actually cross out that word dementia, and it will be Teepa Snow diagnosis or whatever. And the Teepa Snow technique.
My goal is that we change how we see people. And whatever that form that takes on, we can be more than we are. And that allows other people to be amazing. So
there you go.
Thanks, Mike.
Miss Teepa. So for those people who are watching right now, whether you're a PT, OT, speech, or whatever, we're sharing this also in our dementia group. You have the skills, you have the talent, you have it now. All you need to do is just hone it, focus it in one specific niche, and go run with it. And this is what Miss Teepa did. She had this specific niche. She didn't figure this out in one day. And look, it's been 40 years, but she's changing along the way. She said she's changing. She's challenging herself, but not in big steps, in baby steps. If that's what we're going to be doing today as a PTOT speech or any caregiver out there, do one step at a time and everything will follow. Thank you again, Miss Teepa. I appreciate you. Thank you for your time. It's been my pleasure. And thank you. Appreciate you. God bless you. And I appreciate you. And thank you again, ACG, Mr. Understanding Dementia Group. And any last parting words, Miss Teepa?
Oh, thank you, Mike, for all you guys are doing, because together we're changing the support, changing the care, and people shine. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. I'll see you around, Miss Teepa. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mike. Take care. It's great being with you. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to our show for today. Again, if you need education, you need CEU courses, log into medbridgeeducation.com/TN Therapy Outsource. Use the promo code Dr. Mike or alternative. Again, thank you very much for watching our show. God bless you, and always remember, movement matters to your brain matter. God bless you and have a great day. Bye-bye.